Fear and scarcity mindset are huge. So why try when you're perfectly comfortable where you are? Like you can get
Yeah.
by. And some people think that that's okay. It is comfortable. In a lot of ways it challenges people's very identity and existence to push past the things that they know. But if you live in the world of things you know, you can predict how the rest of your life's going to go. And like, sure, could it be okay? Maybe. But is it going to be awesome? Like, unlikely. So, like, you have to go past things you know, or else, like, you'll never get anywhere. Like, that's how we grow.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
Welcome to episode 25 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, I get the really great pleasure to interview someone very special to me, Lisa Manfredi. Lisa is the very first person that set the entrepreneurial spark and showed me how to think much bigger than tradition and show me what is truly possible. She is an absolutely unreal entrepreneur and real estate investor doing absolutely extraordinary things, and I am very blessed to have met her. What is going on, Lisa?
Hey, Kyle.
How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you. That means so much to me. Thanks for having me on. This is awesome.
The pleasure is all mine. I swear. It's, oh my God, I'm very excited. So yeah, to, kind of jump right into things. I feel like we might be kind of, what's it called? Like jumping around quite a bit. But yeah,
fine.
so, to kind of jump into the first question, what do you do? Tell me, a little.
It's a good question.
Tell me a little bit about, I guess, kind of your backstory. From going from like corporate America to, some of the different like companies and stuff that you've started, and yeah.
So yeah, I've had a series of companies over the past few years. My background's in neuroscience and biology, and I worked in technical sales. And it's pretty awesome. Like I learned a lot. There's a lot of flexibility, but it didn't really afford me the ability to operate on full Lisa.
Mhm.
And so I figured like, heck, I might as well go out on my own and try to figure this thing out. And in the meantime, I kind of went down these rabbit holes of understanding the banking system and finance. So that's sort of the thing that sparked it all for me. And so I started looking at how do I earn income in different ways, right? How do I not trade my time for money? How do I earn and hit more people? If I have a message, how do I get it to more people? And so I just started exploring like, hey, what's actually possible? And maybe not what everyone else is doing. And so it has taken me some time to find a passion instead of just jumping at opportunities, because I did that for a while. And actually, you're one of the ones that first igniting me in this path that I'm down now, because I realized that I learned a lot of things that brought me to where I am today. And some people were interested in hearing those things. And
Mhm.
so maybe I should find those people and tell them the story. And so now I've done these deep dives in my own life. I want to study truth. I want to find more freedom and whatever that looks like. And I want to be more resilient. And so I've taken action to find that in my own life. And my financial freedom has come from those steps. And I have a very biased perspective, but I started sharing those biased opinions about money and realizing just how hungry people were for the information, because it's such a mystery to so many people. And it's vital. I mean, we need to operate in a world where we can exchange value. And so I started just talking to people and paying attention to myself for once, and finding themes in my conversations and where people were asking for help and where I saw myself adding value. And I was truly passionate about some of the things I was talking about, and I was excited to bring value to others. So that's what I do now. I spend my time with freedom-minded people who are interested in seeking truth and actually taking action. And I started what I call Wealth Battle with one of my friends. And I'm trying to educate and assist people in creating emergency and opportunity funds that they can earn in a tax-free environment, that in vehicles that are liquid and accessible. Your money's not hidden from you. It's not inaccessible without a penalty. These things allow your money to work in multiple ways at once and allow you to protect your family and create legacy and things that matter. We don't always talk about them now. And why use or fund banks when you can be the bank? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So this is something that I do, like talking about wealth, and we can get into that, but it's a powerful tool in real estate. So I've used it for real estate investing. I've used it for private lending and a bunch of other investment opportunities. I now have this opportunity fund. And so every time I hear something, I hear opportunities. So people always ask me, like, how do you find opportunities? It's like, once you have that mindset, they're everywhere. You just need to be ready to hear them. So I feel like when I was a kid, I used to look at successful people and ask them how they got to be where they are. And they always had some crazy story that like you could never follow. And now I get it. Maybe this is old for you, but do you know that game Plinko? You like drop the tile at the top and it hits all these pins on the way down and it ends up in one slot, but the path it takes, you can't predict. It's all over the map. And I feel like that's kind of the journey I've been on in life. And I found a little slot to fall in, and it's pretty awesome.
It really is, Lisa. That's truly amazing. You know, it's I'm pretty sure I think I remember Plinko. I think so.
I used to watch I think it was The Price is Right with my grandmother, my Nana. And so yeah, I got some good exposure to it. So check it out. You could see some old episodes and get learned.
Yep. That really is though. That's totally the dream, you know, just to like really dig deeper and, you know, not necessarily be like tied down by, you know, like a job or something that you have to do. And, you know, just be able to actually like think much bigger and seek that freedom, you know, to just to do what you were meant to do, you know, and just try to figure it out, and all the while giving value to people and, you know, just making the world a better place. You know,
yeah, and I think we can change what we were meant to do over time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool. We just find where we have value to add, and we want to be involved in voluntary relationships. So if you add value, and if I add value and you see value, you'll give me something in return. And that's a really cool way to operate.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Now going back to the Plinko analogy, but I totally see. I'm kind of starting to see what you're saying. You know, with that, like the path that I guess like we're meant to go on totally isn't just a straight shot. Like there'll be like, you know, certain things that hit off of each other, and like, you know, that leads into meeting like these two people, and these two people are doing this, and that's like really changing everything. And, you know, like I feel like everything kind of happens for a reason. Yeah. And, you know, like as long as you're really like putting your best foot forward, you know, as a person and stuff, and like self growth and everything, then, you know, I feel like you're just going to keep hitting those pins and finding the spot that, you know, that makes you happy.
Yeah, I think you need to be out in the world, because you don't see your value, you don't see opportunities, you don't learn from failures or experiences unless you're really out doing it.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. Just get out.
Mm-hmm.
Remind yourself to get out all the time.
Yeah. It really is though. Even like just getting out of your comfort zone and stuff, and just trying things. Cause, you know, like you said, you're not going to learn anything if you don't try stuff, and you're going to fail the first time, you know, 99.999% of the time.
And the next one, and maybe the next one. That's cool.
Yep. But eventually, eventually you won't.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a lot of businesses that I can look at as failures because I didn't scale them to something grand. And that I can compare myself to other people that don't have all of the failures in their lives. But the reality is they're also not doing things.
Yeah.
So when you put yourself out there and you don't know, like you have to learn through experience, through meeting people, and failures are not such a bad thing. I think that's the people with the most failures are probably doing the most in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, it's pretty interesting to see how, I guess, like the traditional school system kind of views failure versus, you know, I guess in like the business, like entrepreneurial kind of world. Because I mean, like, in school, you know what I mean? Like your failure is kind of governed by a number or a letter,
Yeah.
and like if you didn't do that well on a test or something, like, you're a failure, like, and that's the end of it. But
Mhm.
like if you had like a business or something, or like, like you were trying out like a marketing campaign or something, it didn't work, like you can actually try to do better. And like, depending on, I guess, how you kind of look at failure, in an overall perspective, is like, did I really fail, or did I just find a way that doesn't work? And how can I apply that to the next idea to make that work?
Yeah. Good thing life isn't like school.
I know.
We just need to shift our mindset to get out of that mentality, because a lot of us learned that learned helplessness. A lot of us went through that.
Yep.
But all
Yeah,
sorts of things are possible.
they really are. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Um, so to transition right off of that, what is kind of your drive and your vision for the long term? What's your big fire?
I'd say that's an evolving story. I want to reach more people and educate them on finance and how to design and gain financial resiliency in their lives.
Hmm.
Because I feel like too many people are bounced around by circumstances. And if you have a really important message or something you want to do in the world and you're worried about eating or paying your rent or mortgage, like you can't do that thing.
Yeah.
So I want to be around people that know enough to be able to be dynamic and make choices in their lives. So it's important for me to build a strong community, because I'm better off if everyone else around me is better off. I think that'd be awesome.
Hmm.
And I think a big part of that is really understanding finances and having a good relationship with money, whatever that looks like. And some of that's utilizing tools that just aren't commonly discussed. And I think knowledge can be power, but I also see people accumulating knowledge and sitting on top of their mountains of information and data points. And knowledge is useful if you leverage it for practical advantage. But we all have to take action and we need to show up. And I keep saying that, but we do need to show up. So I guess ultimately, I'd like to really contribute to making the old systems obsolete.
Hmm.
Find something that works and just retire all the old stuff.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I mean, honestly, like it's just crazy to see, you know, I guess a lot of people just kind of taking like the old ways that like their parents knew and like their grandparents taught their parents, and like nobody really breaks free of that, unless you have a reason to. That's just kind of the mentality, because that's what may have worked better in the past. But I mean, times change, and I feel like they kind of change quick. So, I wonder if, maybe the norm is like, maybe being in debt and, maybe not having that job that you like so much. And like, that's just a part of life, you just have to deal with it. And it
Yeah.
just kind of sucks, because a lot of people don't have that light or, that desire to have something bigger, rather than like just trying to deal with it and, kind of say that's life.
It's confronting thinking about these things. Like you have to
It
deal with
is.
yourself,
Mhm.
right? We are the ones that limit ourselves the most. So big ideas are scary, right? It's easy to think that they're for other people. And the question is like, how do we get past that? And how do we, I mean, it seems so simple, but how do we tell more people like, hey, you could do this too? Like
Yeah.
really anything is possible. Let's make it happen. Like just try something and
Yeah.
then try something else. And then try, that's why I say like the distinction choice, like choose something. And then you can always choose something else or choose
Mhm.
something else, but like just keep going down that path.
Yeah.
But then you have the power. You're in control of your life.
I feel like maybe like it isn't as normal to, um I guess, kind of step out of the box and like taste different things. Like, do you think people just kind of like go with what's comfortable a majority
Oh,
of the time instead
absolutely.
of like, do you think it's like a self-awareness thing? Like they don't want to like have a fear of failure or
It's,
something? I mean, everybody has it, but it's just a matter of like getting over it and conquering it.
I think fear and scarcity mindset are huge.
Hmm.
So why try when you're perfectly comfortable where you are? Like you can get
Yeah.
by. And some people think that that's okay. It is comfortable. It's in a lot of ways it challenges people's very identity and existence to push past the things that they know. But if you live in the world of things you know, you can predict how the rest of your life's going to go. I'm like, sure, could it be okay? Maybe. But is it going to be awesome? Like unlikely.
Yeah, exactly.
So like you have to go past things, or else like you'll never get anywhere. Like that's how we grow.
Yeah.
That's why you hang out with people that
Mhm.
are like better than you and smarter than you. It's fun.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's crazy too, like the principle of like osmosis, just like absorbing, like, like putting yourself around the right people and, people that are doing a lot bigger things than you and just like absorbing off of each other, and it's really crazy, kind of the idea of like how much, like how prevalent that is, depending on who you hang out with and surround yourself with, just the mentality, like it just like things stick.
Well, maybe for you, I think you're unique though, because you have a hunger for it and you listen, right? You absorb, you listen, you take it in, and then you'll evaluate yourself. You have an active mind, so you'll take things in and then kind of digest them in certain ways and synthesize and turn them into whatever it is that you turn them into, but you're willing to hear. And that's a huge thing. That's not necessarily common. So that's a really great asset.
I appreciate that, Lisa. Thank you. But I wonder if like open-mindedness is, something that isn't really taught enough, because I mean, like I wonder if it just kind of stems back to like, just the comfort and not really stepping outside the box. And, like this is the procedure that like my grandmother did, that my mother did, this is the procedure that I want to follow. Because like none of us know anything different.
Yeah.
And that's, it's going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's interesting.
Here. I was making cookies with my good friend Billy in college. And I was like, where's the vanilla? And he's like, it's in the cabinet. Where else would it be? I'm like, in the refrigerator. And he's like, what? Why? And I was like, because my mom keeps it in the refrigerator. And he's like, my mom keeps it in the cabinet. Right? We just do the things that we know. It's like, why? Yeah. I don't know. I never thought about it. That's what my mom did. But I think my brother taught me an important distinction, like having an active mind instead of an open mind. It's really like, you don't want to take everything in, right? Yeah. You need to have some filters because there is a lot of noise and we want signal. So like, don't take all the noise in. That'll deplete you of all your energy and it's not all useful. Mm-hmm. So be willing, but be discerning.
I think that's extremely interesting. Yeah. Especially with all the information that's like out there nowadays and, like just the information overload. I mean, like most people are on, some kind of screen and stuff like almost 24/7 at this point, and like, just like the information that we're fed, like just the ability to kind of like decipher through it and figure out what's actually valuable to you and what isn't so much.
Yeah, I think it's important to be challenged and to put yourself in different environments because it's really easy to get caught in an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. So you can find all of the things that validate everything you're thinking. But what if you're wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on building relationships and expanding your network? I know we're starting to kind of get into that segue, but
I think relationships are everything. I think people get caught up in the network and forget the humans they could be relating to. So when I worked a corporate job, I networked all the time. But I think that life isn't about networking, and maybe it's just semantics, but I really think it's about connection, like actually relating and adding value. It's truly about building and maintaining relationships. Like life is rich and full, and there's so much we can offer each other, but it's not a zero-sum game. And I think often we can get caught up in that. And I want a life of abundance, and I seek people who want the same. So I really think it's finding the others that are on a level that you're on, whatever that might be, but people that you can truly relate to in an authentic way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like, just like connecting with somebody, I guess like on a different, I guess like-mindedness, I guess you could say, could really like change everything. I mean, I'm not really sure where I'm going with this. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I mean, like it's really special. Like the people that kind of stick out, like that you really hit it off with, on like a different point rather than like just being interested in the same things. Like
Yeah.
I feel like there's something else there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's, like personality or like, like aspirations. I don't know if it's something deeper than that, but
Well, I mean, even business. Do you want to do business with people that are just in the same industry or that are also humans that have the same idea of integrity and accountability and honesty and like all of that context matters. Like we don't live in vacuum, so context matters, and that's what adds the richness.
yeah,
So I think it matters. I mean, for some people it doesn't, but then it's just transactional, and I'm really
exactly.
about relational.
hmm And I feel like they're not always together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it adds a lot more depth, when it's actually like a special connection instead of just a straight transactional, deal or whatever it is. Like just like the ability to want to keep like working with like the same person or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Past like the job or whatever it is that they're doing. Just because of like how they are as a person, and like it's definitely a lot deeper than that.
Yeah. And I think when you relate to people, you can then find other ways, other places in life that there's something that you can do together or
Yeah.
connections you can make. I think the most fun thing I do in life is just being aware, like what's going on, who I'm talking to. And then I like pull all these pieces together and I stick them together and I build this thing that nobody else would have built the same way. And it's like, hey, maybe you guys should meet because I think you would like to do this.
Yeah.
And, it's a unique thing. And I think that's important in life. And then new things can grow that you never would have done otherwise. Because you don't want to just complete one business deal. You want to have a pretty full life.
Yeah. So do you think when it comes to like just doing like one transaction or something like that only adds to like one aspect of your life? Like, yeah, great. There could be monetary gain or whatever it is, but what about like potentially a friendship or, yeah, like things outside of that, like other things that like you have in common and
Yeah. So not
like,
everything has to be some great like fairy tale story.
yeah.
Like sometimes you have a business transaction and that's it. And you added the value that you were there to add. Right. So
Mhm.
that's huge. But yeah, other things that come out of it. And maybe it's in business, maybe it's personal, again, it's something that you can't predict.
Yeah.
And so you want to explore these things because it's that game of Plinko. You don't know where that'll bounce you next.
Yep.
And I don't mean bounce as in you're being reactive and life is pushing you in different directions. You still get to choose, but now you have more options that maybe you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah. It's totally crazy, like how fast that can happen after literally like one conversation too.
Yeah.
Like literally, like literally 1 5-minute phone call can throw you on a whole nother path. Like
Yeah.
it's literally the craziest thing in the world.
So again, discernment is important because it's still understanding your values. And if whatever that phone call was brings you down the path that isn't aligned with your values, as opposed to a distraction, because
Yeah.
that can happen too. I have all sorts of good ideas when I should be doing the work on one of them because doing the work is hard. So you're like, I have another idea. Maybe I should stop doing the work and go do that fun new beginning part. But actually building something and like digging in and getting past the hard part is where it gets cool. It's just
It
we have to
really
push
is.
ourselves.
Yeah. And sometimes it's kind of hard to see the fruits of your labor. I mean, especially after like just pushing for so long and just like grinding and, not really seeing it for a while. But once you do start to see it, like it's crazy. You're like, oh my God, like I did all of that and that led to this. Like this is the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy.
I don't always see it. I know that I connect people. I know that I help build things. But I'm not always in the middle of it. I make those connections and I let them grow themselves.
Mhm.
And so I don't always know, right? I don't know what happens, but even like initiating it's a good thing, right? And then who knows what will come from there.
It is. And even like just getting the satisfaction of, connecting two people together that like are thinking the same way that, you're shooting the breeze with and connecting with. You're right. Like totally crazy things can happen. And if they do, then phenomenal. If they don't, all right, whatever.
Yeah, nothing
you gave,
lost.
yeah, like you still connected two people, maybe they didn't hit it off or whatever. No big deal. You gave it a shot, and like you still gave both people value, as well as getting value and satisfaction yourself for like trying to make something bigger.
Absolutely.
It's really crazy, like it's nuts.
I think the thing is, like, something I've learned is to not map everything out, because that just puts you on a path that, it's like, if you just sit down and think really hard about what job you should do or what your career should be or what your purpose is in life, I don't think you're going to come up with much, because like, you only know what you know.
Yeah.
So like trying to map it all out and like hit the next checkbox and the next checkbox, like, I don't think that's what life's about.
I totally agree with you. And I kind of am starting to see that now. I mean, like you have like a lot of people have, just kind of like that one really big path that they want to go down. But you might realize, after hitting all those Plinko lines, that like you might find something that's like a complete 90-degree turn that you like 10 times better.
Yeah.
Than, that thing that you thought you wanted.
Right. So the people that choose to go down that path, that's pretty badass.
It really is.
The easy thing to do is to stick with what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there's opportunity cost with that. Because what else could you have done? Could you have had happiness? It's just, you're like, well, I know this. Just take the sunk cost. Be like, you know what? I had all these experiences. I learned all these things. I now know a new direction. Just do it.
Mm-hmm. See, like you really never know.
Anything? Yeah, you're right. I don't.
No,
I really don't. Nope.
Definitely, not to kind of make this about me by any means, but like I never thought at all that like I would make a podcast and have people on it. You know what I mean? I used to be afraid of getting on video literally like 2 years ago. And now I literally have like the most fun time in the world doing this. Like, I feel like you can change so quick, like in a positive way. Like if you literally just keep an open mind and try out those different directions and taste things and see what you like.
And the thing is, the people that watch your podcast, they wouldn't know that about you because you just did a podcast. They're like, oh, here's the guy that does the podcast.
Yeah.
So it's just how you show up.
Yeah. It's a lot deeper than that. I mean, I feel like life is way too short to literally just take that one road that's comfortable. There's always more.
I can't even find that road, so I don't even, wasn't really an option for me. There's all kinds of paths that were untraveled. I just kept going down those.
But is that a bad thing though?
It's just my thing. It's not good or bad. It's just my thing.
But the amount of things that you get to taste and like the amount of people and like occupations and stuff, and like you are able to make like visions happen and like take steps towards them, and like just try like a million different things and see, what sticks and what doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to know you make a choice. If you're making a choice, you're probably not making that choice somewhere. Like the inverse is not happening. Yeah. So ultimately you will do one thing and not another thing. And you can't always know. It's like the choose your own adventure. You can't read all of the adventure ends. You just have to pick one and then go down and be confident in that choice and go down that path. And then you can always choose something else, but we're not going to know. There is no answer. So we're not going to know. Was it the right one? Yeah, it was the one you picked.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's totally like really important, especially what you just said about like there's always like you're always able to go back. Well, most of the time you're able to go back. You know what I mean? Like if you try something and it doesn't work out, you don't like it, all right, whatever, just go back to square one, and recover or whatever it is and go from there. But like just like there's I don't know how to describe it, but it's like just by trying different things, I don't want to say there's like a high with it, like by trying different things and getting excited and everything. And, just like trying to figure things out, and then maybe like the skill that you learned from that you thought was pretty cool might not actually stick and turn out to be something that like you would enjoy, but maybe like a certain skill from that could apply to you, like 6 months later with something else that you taste. And you're like, oh, I actually really liked a part of that. But if I mix it with this, then I can get this. And this is a lot cooler than what I thought about 6 months ago.
Yeah. You're building different muscles, and sometimes you fall into something new and there's some sort of muscle memory that you're a little bit unaware of, but it just kicks in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all wisdom. You're building your wisdom.
It really is. You know, it's so crazy. Let me see here. Ooh, what is the most important lesson that you have learned over your career?
Well, I guess I'd say
this one is usually a big curveball.
I'd say the stuff we've been talking about. Like, I've learned that I fail a lot, and I'm going to keep doing that. And that fail is a terrible word for it. Whatever that is, I'm going to keep doing it. But I guess like dealing with disappointment too.
Yeah.
I find that people don't always live up to their word, or people's words and actions aren't often aligned. And that, the best laid plans, like I put agreements in place and they work until they're no longer convenient for someone else.
Yeah.
And so being able to be forgiving and dynamic, I think, is important. That doesn't mean like create ironclad things around you. It's just, how do I manage myself?
Yeah.
And I can't control other people and I can't force their integrity, but I can hold to my own. And I think that's all I have. I have my reputation, my integrity, and those are the things that matter to me. So I guess things don't always work out the way that I plan or anticipate or expect. I'd say it's always a little bit different, but I can't always take that personally. I can take responsibility, and I can get up and keep failing forward.
I love that.
And then in the process, find people like you that like truly belong in my life, like people that are up to things, that are honest and have integrity and, are just trying to grow. And again, like we can all be successful together. So how do we make like a win-win situation?
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Yep. I totally agree with what you're saying, Lisa. I definitely am trying to figure out the same thing very, very early. But yeah, there was
you'll have lots of opportunities to learn those lessons.
Getting some already.
Nice.
But yeah, there was somebody else that I interviewed a couple weeks ago, and he said something that I thought was pretty interesting. And it's to your point of like not beating yourself up too much when things aren't really working out. And he mentioned to maintain an even playing field. And what he meant was like, when the lows are low, when things aren't going well, when everything's, hitting the fan, like you can't really beat yourself up over it. But also, when you feel like you're on top of the world and like everything's fine and everything's going fantastic, like you can't really get too excited either, because then you lose your hunger.
Yeah.
And I thought what Jose, this is for you, my man. I thought what the guy Jose said was, I really took that like to heart, you know what I mean? Just to maintain an even I guess reaction, across a lot of the different things in your life, and just, like not going to the extreme in either direction. I mean, obviously like things are going to be awful and it's going to be extremely hard to deal with. And, it's really going to suck. But like he mentioned too, like if you're kind of like down in the dumps and stuff like that, you might miss an opportunity that might come up that like, because like you're not looking for it. You know what I mean? Like,
but also if you're in that state, that's also okay. And
yeah,
maybe
definitely.
that's when you reach out to your relationships and say, hey, this is where I am right now. Like now is a time of need. Like I need help. And you might learn from something from that experience too. Like there's a reason we go through things, and being able to be vulnerable and ask for help opens up so many doors. It's fascinating. So there's value in that. And I also think that there's like the duality of positive and negative. And in the Western world, we're told that positive is good and negative is bad. And I think there's that's not really the case. They're just different sides, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes negative is good. Like bad debt is great,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
There's stuff like that makes sense. So
yeah,
having like a neutral positive and negative, I think is also a good thing. You're not riding that roller coaster. It's not controlling you. You can experience the experiences, but you don't have to have that emotional reaction.
Yeah. Would you say just kind of like maintain and balance? Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, even, to go in the opposite direction, I mean, too much of anything, it could be a bad thing, so like too much on the good side of that spectrum could actually lead into the bad side.
Well,
And too
it
much of bad
becomes,
things.
you lose
Yeah.
sight of what's good if you don't see, like, if you're always in light, you don't see darkness at all, you start losing sight of the light, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have a contrast between, like our faces and the backdrop. So there has to be gradations.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's all important. It adds to the richness of life.
Yeah. I thought that was really important. That it really is. And like it's definitely not something that happens overnight either. To kind of figure out what that balance is like for you. It's because I mean things happen and it's kind of hard to not be reactive
Mhm.
some of the time. And it's kind of hard to keep that balance.
I have one more comment about that. I think
Mhm.
it's important not to become numb. So it's not that you're avoiding or just shutting out all of the experiences. It's just not being bounced around by them,
Mhm.
right? You still have to experience everything and you can still feel things. And so you don't want to just like be arm's length from everything,
Yeah.
right? It's still being in the experience, but having that balance.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Definitely. I mean, I feel like everything, like I said earlier, like kind of happens for a reason. And, just kind of like riding that roller coaster and then, kind of figuring out like how to stay in between the two sides of that spectrum. Um, while just kind of maintaining the situation is definitely a pretty crazy thing to learn how to build.
Yeah.
Ooh, this one might take a while, Lisa. How do you define wealth?
I mean, I think I could just say it's living in abundance, period.
Period.
I don't know that it
Done,
needs much
mic
more
drop.
than that. It's it's just like truly having like your health and wealth in a financial sense and happiness. But I think we overcomplicate things sometimes. I think it's just abundance.
I think you're right, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects of our lives, but like at the end of the day, I mean, just being able to, I guess keep like an even, I guess, level, across some of the different aspects, from like family and happiness and being able to really like just take charge of all of that and not, do things because you have to, but because you want to. And, just kind of, yeah, literally like just doing the things that you want to and, kind of figuring out what that freedom is for you, as an individual.
Amen.
Mic drop. No, yeah, I do totally agree with you though. I mean, like some people have talked about it before and in using the same word abundance because it is definitely a really special word. That really describes everything. From even like just having the balance of like working really hard and then now all of a sudden like you might not see your family and friends as much, so have to be able to have the ability to kind of equal those out so neither of them get unbalanced long term and fall through and stuff. And
I think
same
if we
thing
have
with,
a mindset of abundance,
Mhm.
really anything is possible, and then you can bring in the elements that you like. It's no longer out of obligation. It's really, how do I build the life I want to live? Like, how do I make agreements that we all agree to? Because then we get the lives that we want. Like,
Yeah.
this sounds amazing. And then it's not about how much money do you have or what do you look like or what are you driving? Like, none of those things matter.
Mhm.
It's, are we living the lives we want with the people surrounding us that we want to surround us? And yeah, are we enjoying ourselves? Are we appreciated? Is there value?
Yep. That's pretty much it, honestly. You know, I mean, life is way too short to do the things that you're obligated to do.
Yeah.
Instead of actually finding out, you know, where the happiness is and discovering it.
Yep.
You know,
I never understood why people wanted white picket fences. Like, why was that a checkbox?
Yeah.
Never had that one.
Yep. Me too. Yeah. What is something that you thought about business, networking, or wealth creation that kind of changed as you went along? I know we've talked about, you know, quite a bit,
Yeah.
you know, that has changed, but
I really thought that I was destined to do well in school, get good grades, get a good job, and then work till the end of time. And I saw all these entrepreneurs and people building things and like creating things. And I thought that was just not my lot in life. Like that was for people not like me,
yeah.
because I was told to go on this path and then you get a good job. And they're like, well, you did it.
Yeah.
And I was like, did what? This is it? Like, this is what I was meant to do. Wow. But I realized that those are limiting beliefs that were trained into me through schooling and my upbringing and other people's scarcity mindsets, you know, for having security and, you know, always really relying on someone else all the time. And I learned some important lessons, very deep. It's bogus. It's just all bogus.
It
And
is.
none of that matters. Like,
Yep.
really, business and networking and wealth creation, like none of that matters if you don't have a rich life with friends and family and puppies and shared experiences. Like, none of that matters. So
It doesn't.
no. And then once you like realize that, like all the other stuff falls into place. It's like, oh, I'm actually happy now. I find the thing I like to do. And now I'm with ease adding value to people's lives, which means they want to give me something in return. And so now we're building and building and building upon all those things. We're taking advantage of compounding. Compounding is pretty cool.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally couldn't agree more. And even, you know, to kind of go in a little bit of a different direction, you know, like something that's been pretty heavy was, you know, to your point of like the people that like bring you up and stuff and like that are around you and everything obviously want the best for you and everything most of the time, but like they're only brought up a certain way. And, you know, I guess like they have like a comfort zone that like they try to instill in you, I guess you could say.
Absolutely.
And it's really hard to kind of break away from that, you know, for the purpose of like approval and stuff to the people that mean the most to you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, sometimes you can kind of feel like on your own, you know, like you're in your own little world, like trying to figure things out, because like the people right around you, like totally like right around you, don't really understand what's going on. And like, I feel like it's kind of important to, you know, be able to take their advice and stuff, but still be able to kind of think for yourself. And I don't really know how to word this without sounding like unappreciative, I guess you could say. But yeah, I mean, like just kind of being able to think independently and think for yourself, you know, as
you
well
always need
as
to make your own choices, and they may not be the same as someone who taught you, and that
Yeah.
means nothing about those other people.
Yeah.
They're your choices.
And I feel like it can be really hard to kind of break away from that and break away from, you know, like how you've been brought up and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
like it's kind of hard to follow, I guess, like your own path, like independently for the first time and kind of establish, you know, like who am I trying to impress or not impress? Like what actually matters?
Yeah. What does matter? Like, what
I
does
mean,
success look like?
yeah.
Or can you define your values? Because really, if you can define your values, that's a big thing. Most people can't. If you can define your values, that's pretty amazing. And then let's take a look at where you spend your time and your energy and your attention and your money. Are they aligned with your values? And if not, like maybe that's how you find your direction.
Yeah.
I think walking along that leading edge is scary, because on one side there's like comfort, and the other side there's this vast unknown, and it's deep and dark and scary because who knows what's there. But really, that's what builds fortitude. and it challenges your beliefs. And what I realized is I get caught in this potential. I'm like, oh, people have potential. That's true. People have unlimited potential. We all do.
Mm-hmm.
But potential is a tricky thing, right? The object could never go in motion. And so a lot of people never realize their potential, right? They'll stay in comfort and they'll just grow moss all over them. Meh. But the people that go into motion, like now you're starting to realize your potential and you could pick up more and more and more, and you pull in new pieces and new experiences and wisdom as you go, and you start shaping your own reality, not trying to live someone else's.
Yeah.
And so you can, people can be proud of you for who you are and what you're becoming. And it doesn't have to be about someone else or their story or their comfort. It's your story, not theirs.
It is definitely, pretty interesting to kind of see that, like, for the first time, like whenever you're trying something new, like, especially, like right after high school or something, like there's a lot of expectations that are kind of like put on you all of a sudden, like to get your crap together. But I mean, like this is your path. Like this is your life we're talking about.
Yep.
Like not necessarily like your parents or whatever, so like I find interesting, I guess, kind of the balance between, sticking to like the way that you've been brought up and the morals and like the comfort zones and stuff. And like you said, kind of the tightrope of looking into the unknown and seeing what else is possible. And like what would really give me the most fulfillment, and being able to take the leap and not worry about the other side, without, like putting them in the wrong direction, I guess you could say. And
you're going to land on something.
Yeah.
So like the leap's worth it.
Yep.
You might land slightly on your face, but then you can always get up again.
Yeah.
It's all possible.
Mm-hmm. And then if it doesn't work out, you can still go back.
I think one of the traps that I fell into was like expectations that I built up in my own head. So it's not even other people's expectations. It's what I thought their expectations were, right? And then it's like, what are we even talking about? This is insane. Yeah. So let's throw all this away. Let's just throw it away. But I saw, okay, well, here are people that just got out of school and they went right to a job and they're making a certain amount of money. Is that success? Or they got married and they have kids. Is that success? I don't know. And if I'm going down this path and I can't even compare myself because none of the things are comparable.
Yeah.
I'm like on a different planet. What do I do with that? And you know what? It doesn't even matter. Just be on a different planet. Just do your thing.
Mm-hmm. Whatever makes you happy, right? I mean, at the end of the day.
Everyone is so concerned about looking good themselves that they're not actually paying attention to you. Turns out.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I definitely have been there though. What you said a couple minutes ago about like thinking that people think of you a certain way. And then like once you find, I guess, like the self-awareness to see that like it doesn't really matter. Like you're just kind of doing your thing and, like creating that path. Like nothing matters. I mean, like as long as you're trying things and, just trying things out to see what you like and what you don't. It doesn't, like you're independent of everything else. You're just kind of like with these people on this planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it sounds super crazy, but yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but
well, you can let me know down the road. I'll be interested to follow that line of thought.
No, I mean, I guess like what I'm trying to say is like everybody is independent and has their own stories. Like we're just kind of here together, and
isn't that great? Like, do you want the same story as someone else? Like that'd be really boring.
Yeah, no way.
Like, what are you going to talk about? It's like, I don't need to find like a husband that is me. I'm already me. I don't need another person.
Yeah.
Like I need someone else in my life. So yeah, cool. I'm glad people are different and they're doing different things and up to different things. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, what makes you happy is going to be different than, what makes somebody else happy. It's just, it's a really interesting like time period that we're in right now, to see like who people look up to and, it's very, very interesting to see, like how reactive like society is as a whole. I have a lot of thoughts going on in my head right now, and I don't know how to put them into words.
Can work on that. That's a muscle. That's just
Yeah.
developing a muscle.
Yeah, definitely needs work. But anyway, what values are most important to you when it comes to doing business? I know, again, we've talked about a crazy, crazy amount of, values and like actually like helping each other out, over like just the transaction and stuff like that. And just adding like a lot more depth to relationships.
I think it all comes down to, like, for me, integrity, honesty, and trust. Because in most things in life, it's almost like I don't care what the thing is. Whatever we're
Yeah.
working on or talking about doesn't matter. It's who am I doing this with? And with the right people, you can accomplish anything and have a good time doing it. So, having values, like being in tune with yourself well enough to know what your values are and to be able to define integrity so that you can have integrity. And I think for me, like being able to define how I'll show up in the world and who I want to dance alongside me. Like,
Yeah.
I need to know who I am and what I'm about, right? It's not all on everyone else. It's like I have a responsibility too. So how do I make sure I always show up in the world the way that I want to show up? And I think that then, we'll find more synergies.
Would you say too, like the more like self-aware that you are, in that kind of aspect, like the more that you put yourself out there as you, then like the more people that are gonna come up out of the woodwork and like kind of see like how you actually are as a person, and then like be able to connect on that rather than, just trying to like impress other people. You know what I mean? Like representing yourself like as yourself.
I think it's important
Um,
to always be yourself.
yeah.
And that can change a little over time, but I think your values don't change.
Hmm.
So always, you're the guy that is always this, right? People always know what to expect. Does that mean that you always have good interactions? No. Like, unfortunately, that's not how the world works. So, will you find better relationships? Hopefully. It might take some time. There still will be a lot of people that aren't aligned with you or haven't done the work themselves. And then it's understanding, what does that mean for you? Do you set boundaries and do you say, okay, well, we can do this transaction if it falls within these boundaries? But if it falls outside of that, like I'm not comfortable with that. Or, it can look like different things, but you know, that's that vast unknown. The right people could be right on the other side of that edge. Or you could never find them. Who knows? But you don't know until you end up going in there. It's like drawing you in.
Stepping back to what you said earlier about like if you step foot into that unknown, you're gonna hit something.
I think so. But I think the important part too is just always show up so people know who you are. Because you only have your own integrity. And yes, if you keep doing that, you will find the right people. You will build those relationships. But you have to be responsible for yourself. Like, I think it's so easy to blame the world or point fingers. And, I have to create the world that I want. And
Yeah.
I honestly don't know what that looks like every day, but we have to be painting. Every day we have to be painting it.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah. And that stems back to the Plinko board. We don't know what that world's gonna look like, but as long as like we're doing our own thing and creating that, then everything else kind of falls into place.
I think so. And really, when you find the right people, then what you were talking about before, you can actually talk about the things that you care about and that matter. And you don't feel so alien, and you don't have to worry about being judged, because now you're in a group of people that are doing things. Right.
Yeah.
And probably not all the same things, but they're thinking. Like, I hang out with people that are seeking truth. Are we like-minded? Probably not. We have differing opinions on things. And that's okay. We're willing to challenge each other and be challenged and to grow.
Hmm.
But you have to be able to accept that. You need to be able to listen and hear and do something with that, and not just be reactive to everything.
Yeah. Just to have that open-mindedness to basically all kinds of perspectives and see, you know, how other people are thinking as well, and how you can build on that and build on each other. And
Yeah, you're going to have your own flavor, and that's cool.
yeah.
Right. And so when somebody says something, you're not going to hear exactly what they're saying, probably. You're going to filter it through your filter.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be dangerous, but it can also be really cool, right?
Yeah.
Like you could put some really fun colors on it that maybe other people haven't seen yet. And now you have something to bring back to the world. And so it's interesting to see you pull in all of this information and experiences and data points. Like, what are you actually going to do with it? That's cool, right? That's a fun thing. Like you get to create that, and you will create it. That's pretty awesome.
It
Doesn't
really
need to
is.
look like something that's already been written. Like that's old stuff. That's stale. You don't need to be stale.
Yep. Always create something new.
Yeah.
Last but not least, our last question here, Lisa. Do you read? And what is your favorite business, investing, or real estate book that you would recommend to anyone?
I do read. Yes.
That is good.
Thank you for your approval. I'll go a little unconventional, perhaps. I read this book called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. And it kind of opened up my world in a lot of ways, because it's really talking about like, how do you host something? And the reality is, it's kind of like how sales is a part of every conversation. Like people knock sales, but sales is just like listening and learning people and adding value. And it's a cool thing. Well, we host things all the time. Like you're hosting me right now. There's an art to that. It's like we think that if we're going to have people come to our meeting or our party or our podcast or our phone call, that we just ask them to come and then the rest is on them.
Yeah.
It's not their thing, it's your thing. So how do you make a full experience? And again, like find those relational pieces so that you're building something. It's not just a transaction. It's what is it that we can connect on here? What is the point? How do I keep you engaged from the moment I ask you to the moment you walk in the door, maybe metaphorical door, to like the whole experience? And as a host, you have a responsibility. It's not just the invitation and hoping that the guests create the experience that you're hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to guide them. And so this book was really awesome. And I think it can be applied to so many things. I think about when I worked in corporate America, how many meetings we had that were a waste of everyone's time. And if you add up the dollars that they spent on all those meetings, like, were they necessary? Was that something that could have been accomplished in a 2-sentence email?
Yeah.
What is the point? Outlining the point and then giving people a full experience from beginning to end. And there are pieces, understanding all of those pieces. I think that could can make a big difference in all interactions.
That sounds like a really interesting book. Because honestly, you're
totally
right. I mean, like there's a ton of things that like you do indirectly host that you probably don't think twice about. You know, like I definitely never thought about that kind of thing until you just said it. You know, I mean, like
it's
just
like if you have a dinner party and then you leave to make dinner, you're the host, but you're like cooking and everyone else is like together. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's kind of interesting now that you say that too. Like if you go over to like a friend's house or something for dinner, like I feel like most of the time, like they act a little bit different because like there's a responsibility there to actually give the guests an experience. You know, like it's a different like mentality. And like, yeah, I definitely find that super interesting. You know, I'll have to write that book down and check that out.
Even asking questions on the podcast, it's like you are guiding, you're facilitating the conversation. So it's not up to me to think about what do you care about? What should I share? What does your audience care? I don't know. Like, you know your audience. And so you're guiding it. That's all important. How do you follow up with your followers? It's so, yeah, it was pretty impactful.
It sounds like a really good one. And I really like that it's a little bit different too.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like one of those, you know, kind of hidden gems that, you know, might be a little less talked about, but could have a really, really big, you know, principle in it. Definitely have to check that out.
Very cool. Let me know what you think.
I will.
You can host a party and I'll come.
We can try it. But yeah, I can talk to you for hours, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming on here. This was a very, very big honor. Yeah, thank you for everything that you've done for me as well, from the beginning.
It was truly my pleasure coming on, and I really appreciate meeting you. You helped me develop some of the things that I talk about now, like understanding what people care about, what they don't know, what are the holes I can fill in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was great. I appreciate it.
And guys, just, not to kind of, like go in another direction real quick, but Lisa and I met through a meetup that she was hosting. It was for, it's a board game called Cashflow. It's a game similar to Monopoly. There's this guy, Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote a couple books that you definitely know about, and he made a board game. And it basically simulates, people going through life and, different investments and stuff that can come up, and, the benefits, the pros and cons to those, as well as like different issues that can come up, and like just, it's a really like realistic simulation of your life. And you go through it as, like a different trade. Like you could be like, a police officer, or, like just a bunch of different roles. They have different salaries, and it's a really incredible, like eye-opening game. But anyway, so Lisa hosted one of these meetups at this cafe in Charlestown, and I decided to go one night. It was the first meetup that I would have ever went to, and like I was going back and forth, about like if I should go or not, and like, because I was nervous as hell. You know what I mean? I didn't really know what I was expecting, so I showed up, and it literally changed my entire life. Like completely changed my entire life. So if there's one thing to kind of take from this podcast, it's to get out there and taste things, because you have no idea what spot on the Plinko board that you will end up.
And I host games virtually now, so everyone is welcome to play. We do financial game, so you can learn about your mindset, shifting your mindset, kind of breaking down some of those barriers, those invisible barriers that we have that we don't even know we have. Figure out what's possible, get out of the rat race. I mean, there's so much. It's crazy. A lot of people have come and changed their lives, changed the way they operate, changed their businesses. It's been fantastic. And just through playing games. Mm-hmm. And so there's nothing at stake. So you have fun and you learn some things. So we play virtually now, so everyone can come play.
Yep.
wealthbattle.com/free.
I was just gonna ask you, what the link was and stuff, as well as, any social media or, any like companies or anything, that you own, like any contact info that you would like me to share. I would love to.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, right now, if anyone that wants to join the community and play or watch is fine. It's wealthbattle.com/free, and it's a Discord server. So we have conversation going, and you can get a hold of me there. You'll see me. I'm the Lisa. And, but the webpage is wealthbattle.com, and then just /free to play.
Definitely check it out, guys. It will change your life.
Hopefully. I'm up for that task. It's a challenge I'm up for.
You've done it once, Lisa. Once that I can count personally. But yeah, thank you so much again for coming on here, Lisa. It means a lot to me. You have no idea.
Thank you. Same.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.